everyone, my name is Doug Polk and welcome back to Poker Thoughts. Today we're going to be looking at the top 5 World Series of Poker main event winners in terms of skill in the modern era. And I think those are two important things because first off, I can't really look at the people not in the modern era. Not many hands are really available. I don't know them. I haven't played with them, etc. So I only want to do it on people that I've actually played with or watched or have some ability to commentate on their play rather than blindly guess. And I also want to do top 5 because, there's only 13 people in the modern era. So I think looking at the top 5 makes the most sense. So before we get into any of that, let's look at my favorite winner from the non-modern day World Series of Poker main event. I looked at a lot of the winners from back in the day and I could only pick one, which is a shame because there's a lot of good players. But ultimately, I had to go with the silent assassin, Erik Seidel. If you look at Erik Seidel's history since he won the main, he's played in countless high rollers, won millions of dollars. I'm not sure if he's number 1, 2, or 3 in the all-time money list, but he's somewhere up there and has become a legend of the game.
Erik Seidel, he can only look and wonder what might have been.
What? Okay, so I guess we can't give it to Erik, but certainly an honorable mention for becoming so close. Now that Erik's out of the picture, I'm going to have to go ahead and give it to Phil Ivey. This guy's a beast. 7-time poker. Is that seven bracelets won, crushing the live cash games. At one point was a huge winner in the online games as well, and probably in the public's eye, viewed to be the best poker player in the entire world. But
amazing. Phil Ivey loses
again. What? God damn it, they're just not making it easy for me today. All right, so apparently I don't know who actually won the main event. So we got the list right here. Let's see. We got Doyle Brunson. That's a reasonable pick. Bobby Baldwin won the main. How about that? Stu Unger, the kid, right? The kid. Maybe Dan Harrington and a guy named Carlos Mortensen. Never heard of him. So after looking at the list, and we actually do have to move on here, I'm going to go ahead and go with Phil Hellmuth. Phil Hellmuth, the most World Series of Poker bracelets of all time, also played with him before, and while he might have a few moments that aren't quite the best, and he does have a propensity to blow up, still overall a great poker player, won a lot of money from tournaments, and I got to give a little credit where credit is due. So Phil Hellmuth, my number 1 World Series of Poker main event winner in the non-modern era. Okay, so now we can move on to the main event here today. We're going to talk about the top 5 World Series of Poker main event winners in the modern era in terms of skill. And also, again, important to note here, this is my opinion. I don't know a ton about some of the players. I've just seen a few hands or I've played with a few times. So I could be wrong, and I'm just giving you my view on this list. Number 5 on this list is actually the spot I felt most up in the air about. I felt there was a couple players who are in the same vicinity as each other, but ultimately I had to make a pick, and I just couldn't find it in my heart to pick someone whose nickname is the Beast. So we're going with Joe McKeehan, who won last year's WSOP Main, and when I saw his play, I thought overall he played quite good. There was a reasonable portion of bluffs. He wasn't a nit on some river calls. I thought he played good. The only thing I really found kind of annoying about Joe, and I've played some live with him, is that he gets really intense with the stare downs. And I played a high roller where he was staring me down, and I was like, I don't understand, why are you just staring at me? You bet. It's kind of the same thing that we saw with the Fedor hand, where, Fedor jammed and then stared down to Silva. It's the same type of idea. I'm not really sure why players do that. I know Timex does it for intimidation, but I'm sure even Timex, when he's jamming, isn't just staring people down. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't really know. Anyway, he's my number 5. He plays a good game, but it seems a little bit to get away from fundamentals too much sometimes, and I think that if he maybe brushed up on his fundamentals, maybe played some more online, he could move up this list for sure. Next up is the 2009 winner, number 4, Joe Cata. And I actually feel that I might even be a little biased here because I've seen Joe Cata play heads up, no limit since he won. And I also know that he played some before he won the championship. So whenever people have a background in heads up, it's going to make them a more solid player in their approach to the rest of the game. Heads up puts you in a lot of tough spots. And going through that will, understanding what to bluff, what to call, what to raise, etc. Going through that process will allow you to become a much better player in a variety of game types. So I don't know too much about Joe Cata. I've actually never played with him. I've seen some hands of his online, and I think that he's a good player. From what I can recall of his run, he seemed to play a fairly standardish game, and I can respect that enough to give him number 4. Number 3 on my list is 2010 winner Jonathan Duhamel. And before we talk about any more about Jonathan, let's go ahead and roll this clip.
Jonathan Duhamel just wants to disappear inside that hood if he could. Matt Affleck is going to have 41 million chips or no chips. He needs to dodge a king, jack, or 8.
The river card. Oh, it's an 8! A crushing blow to Matt Affleck. Duhamel hit his card and eliminates young Matt Affleck.
He's got to be heartbroken.
I would say this marks almost a new subgroup in our list of really great champions that are very good at the game, and I could not be happier for that they won. Duhamel, since his victory, has won the 1-drop as well as a World Series of Poker Europe bracelet to bring his bracelet total up to 3. From what I've seen of his game, he seems like a solid player, definitely willing to mix in some bluffs and play well. That said, he did have to get very lucky to win his bracelet, but you know what? Everyone has to get lucky to win their main event bracelet. That's just the way that it goes. I have a lot of respect for Duhamel and hope to see him play more in the future. Number 2 on my list is someone that I will probably be slightly biased in saying, but I'm going to have to give it to 2012's winner, Greg Merson. Now, I've known Greg for a long time. In fact, we used to play $1, $2 in those 6-max streets back on PokerStars when it was legal here in America. So I've certainly played more hands with him than the rest of the list combined. He was one of those guys coming up in the cash stakes around the same time as me, moving up with his bankroll and trying to slowly make his way towards the top. So I have a lot of respect for his background, and I know that he's a very good player. I also got the chance to meet him here in Las Vegas and hang out with him several times. Very cool, nice, down-to-earth guy. Glad I got to meet him as well. If you look at his results since he won the main, well, it's actually the same year he won the main. He won the 2012 6-max, which really, I guess, the 3 events that I think are the most prestigious in the World Series of Poker for no-limit players are the main event, the 10K 6-max, or 25K 6-max, depending on the year that it was, and the 1-drop. So winning 2 of those is certainly notable. Since then, he hasn't really had the same type of success playing live tournaments, but to be honest with you, he hasn't played a ton of them. So I'm going to give it to Greggy for his overall ability and just being a gangster.
Pieces all
wow.
in.
I love that play. I absolutely love that play.
And a fold from Balsiger. And it was Queen Jack on hearts for Merson.
And that is what separates the men from the boys. That was amazing.
Oh my goodness. And Ivy loves it as well.
This brings us to our number 1 most skilled player to win the main event in the modern era. And I'm going to have to give it to Jamie Gold. And I know what you're thinking. How can this possibly be the pick for the best player? And the answer is that it's not. I'm going to have to give it to Martin Jacobson. I first met Martin Jacobson on the High Roller Tour playing tournaments in Australia. And, you know, really when I think about Martin Jacobson, I almost don't really view him like a World Series of Poker main event winner. I know he won it and that's what will define him. But if you look at what he was doing before that, he was constantly grinding all of the high rollers around the world. He was already a top established tournament player before winning the main, and you simply can't say that about any of these other players. No offense, there's a lot of good players there, but winning the main event did not make Martin Jacobson in my eyes. Winning the main event made him one of the most notable players of all time to me, but not a great poker player. He was that before the main. I played against Martin Jacobson in Australia in some high rollers. I thought he played well, and to be fair, I've not played a lot against him through the last couple of years. But I will say he seems to have a great grasp of how to play and plays loose. He plays loose and aggressive and balanced, and I like his style, and that's why I'm giving him number 1 on my list. Before we go, I just want to note 2 more main event winners that I think did some remarkable things. And first off, you have to give credit to the man that boomed poker, Chris Moneymaker. And the only thing that I have to say about Chris is how the hell do you win the main event with the last name Moneymaker? I mean, Moneymaker. That's his last name. And finally, I want to give a shout out to Greg Raymer, who actually is from the same area in North Carolina that I went to high school in, Wakefield.
I go to Wakefield, and I keep it real.
But anyway, shout out to Greg Raymer. He's done a lot even since his main event victory, constantly playing tournaments, and now he kind of grinds the American scene. But he plays an okay game, fairly tight, conservative style, and done a lot for the game of poker. So wanted to make sure to give him some credit too. Thank you for joining us here for Poker Thoughts. I hope you enjoyed my top 5 list, and I'll see you again tomorrow. If you guys have any thoughts for people that should have made the list, leave them in the comments below, and also subscribe to my channel for more poker thoughts and poker hands. Here's what I like and don't like about that bet. What I like about that bet is you get some value against an opponent who very likely has Queen Jack or a set. I mean, when we think about the kinds of hands that Opes is going to 3-bet here, for value, it's going to be Queen Jack, 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 7-7, or he's bluffing, right? And if he's bluffing,